The studio was hushed, the kind of silence that makes even a shuffled note sound like thunder. A small set had been arranged. 2 sleek armchairs facing each other, a low-glass table between them, and 2 untouched glasses of water. Warm, subdued spotlights gave the scene a quiet, theatrical glow. There was no audience, no applause. This wasn't about spectacle. It was about questions and answers. Norah O'Donnell entered first, composed and calm, her professional warmth filling the space. She was known for her balance, empathy wrapped in precision. Moments later, Meghan Markle appeared, gliding into her seat with the grace of someone who had practiced this entrance 1,000 times. Her expression was neutral, polished, every movement deliberate, every camera angle already accounted for. "Meghan, thank you for being here," Norah began, her tone soft but steady. "I know your time is precious, and we appreciate you sitting down with us tonight." Meghan offered a small, restrained smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Well, I think the world deserves to hear the truth, don't you?" Her voice carried a quiet edge. Norah nodded, choosing not to react. "Of course. That's exactly what we're here to do. Shed light on your journey, your challenges, and your hopes moving forward." At first, the questions were easy. Meghan spoke smoothly about her projects, her foundation, her carefully curated vision of empowerment. She leaned back, hands folded elegantly, less a guest being interviewed and more a keynote speaker in control of the room. But Norah had done this too long to miss the performance. She glanced down at her notes, then looked back up. Her tone still friendly, but her eyes a touch sharper. "Meghan, there's been a lot of conversation about how life has changed since you stepped away from the royal family. How are you finding life in America?" Meghan tilted her head, letting out a soft, humorless laugh. "Life in America? Let's just say it's refreshing to be somewhere I don't have to bow to anyone." Norah blinked, not the answer she expected or perhaps exactly what she feared. Still, she pressed on. "And your husband, Harry? How has he adjusted to this new chapter?" A flicker of amusement crossed Meghan's lips, something close to a smirk. "Harry's doing fine. Better than fine, actually. He's learning what it means to live like a free man, not chained to centuries of outdated rituals. It's liberating for both of us." A pause followed, the kind that thickens the air. Norah jotted a note, her voice even. "Some have wondered if there's been any tension between you two as you navigate this transition. Public life can be..." "Tension?" Meghan cut in, laughing sharply. "Please, people love to imagine drama where there isn't any. Harry and I are stronger than ever. If there's tension, it's from the outside, from people who can't stand to see us happy." Her words were smooth, but her tone brittle. The viewers at home might not notice, but Norah felt the wall go up, brick by brick. She tried another angle, gentler this time. "You've often been compared in the media to the Princess of Wales, Catherine. Do you ever feel pressure from those comparisons?" Meghan's jaw tightened. A long pause. "Pressure? No, annoyance maybe. Imagine constantly being measured against someone just because of who you married. Kate this, Kate that. It's laughable." The words hung heavy. Norah stayed composed, though her eyes flickered. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. "And your children?" Norah ventured softly, hoping to pivot. "They've been in the spotlight even when you've tried to shield them. How do you navigate that as a mother?" Meghan leaned forward now, her tone turning cold. "My children are off limits. The fact that people think they're entitled to ask about them says a lot about society's obsession with invading privacy. Maybe journalists should focus less on kids and more on real issues." Norah's posture didn't falter, but the sting landed. The room felt tighter, heavier. What began as polite conversation now carried the pulse of something sharp and uneasy. The lights hummed faintly overhead, casting long, restless shadows across Meghan's composed face. Eyes glinting with a quiet irritation every seasoned interviewer learns to recognize. Norah adjusted her posture, her composure unshaken. She'd interviewed senators, CEOs, even heads of state. Yet something about this guest was different. A peculiar mix of charm and defiance, entitlement wrapped in elegance. It wasn't hostility exactly, but a challenge. A test. She offered a calm, practiced smile. "Let's talk about your Netflix partnership," Norah began, her tone even. "There have been reports suggesting you and Prince Harry were in discussions for a new season, and that there were disagreements over compensation. Can you tell us what's really going on?" Meghan let out a soft, airy laugh. The polite kind that isn't really polite at all. "Reports? You mean rumors?" she said, arching an eyebrow. "I find it fascinating that the media spends so much time speculating about numbers instead of focusing on the message." Norah nodded lightly. "So you're saying the reports are untrue?" "I'm saying," Meghan replied crisply, "that whatever discussions my team and I have are private. But it's funny, isn't it? People assume that because I've lived in the public eye, they're entitled to every financial detail of my life. That's not journalism, Norah. That's gossip." Her words fell like stones, quiet, heavy. Norah's expression didn't waver, but she inhaled slowly. She could feel the shift now. This wasn't going to be a polite headline interview. It was turning into a duel. "I understand your point," Norah said, her tone measured. "But surely, when you and Prince Harry signed one of the most publicized entertainment deals in recent history, you anticipated a certain level of scrutiny." Meghan's eyes flashed. "Scrutiny or obsession? There's a difference. Let's be honest. If my name weren't Meghan Markle, nobody would care. But the moment a woman speaks up, she's called difficult, demanding, greedy." The indignation in her voice was rehearsed, but powerful, almost theatrical. Norah folded her hands, her professionalism intact, though the tension between them was starting to hum in the air, thin and electric. "Speaking of the public," Norah continued gently, "you've often said you value your privacy. Yet your projects, from the docuseries to your memoir, invite audiences into deeply personal parts of your life. Some say that's contradictory. How do you respond?" Meghan exhaled sharply through her nose, her smile tight. "I think that's a lazy criticism. Sharing my truth isn't the same as surrendering my privacy. People seem to struggle with that concept. Perhaps they just prefer their women silent." Norah's pen froze midair. That wasn't defensiveness. That was accusation. She looked up, her calm mask beginning to crack just slightly. "No one here is asking you to be silent, Meghan," she said softly. "I'm asking how you draw that line." "The line," Meghan replied coolly, "is mine to draw." A silence followed, thick, uneasy, alive. Even the studio light seemed to dim under its weight. Norah could feel the change. Conversation giving way to confrontation. Still, she pressed forward, unwilling to yield. "You've spoken before about the institution of the monarchy and the challenges you faced. Looking back now, do you have any regrets about how you handled your departure?" Meghan's laugh was dry, almost mocking. "Regrets? None. I chose peace over performance, authenticity over servitude. Frankly, I think I should be applauded for walking away from a system built on silence and submission." Norah tilted her head, voice calm but pointed. "Some might say that same system gave you the platform to speak today. That did it." Meghan's posture stiffened. The warmth that had lingered for the cameras began to drain from her face. "Oh, so now we're giving credit to the institution for my voice? Interesting. You think I owe my visibility to the monarchy, rather than my talent, my intelligence, or my work ethic." Norah's tone softened, though her words remained precise. "I'm only suggesting that your life and your reach changed dramatically because of your connection to the royal family. That's a fact, isn't it?" "It's your version of a fact," Meghan snapped. "The truth is that connection came at a cost most people can't imagine. Maybe instead of framing it as a privilege, you should acknowledge the trauma that came with it." The tension was now unmistakable. Behind the cameras, crew members exchanged wary glances. Norah drew in a steady breath, her professionalism stretched to its limit. "I do understand it wasn't easy," she said carefully. "But surely you can see how some people might interpret your remarks about the royal family as—" "As what?" Meghan cut in, her tone sharp as glass. "As ungrateful, as bitter." Meghan's voice carried a cool defiance. "That's always the label, isn't it? The outspoken woman is ungrateful. The quiet one is a saint. I know how the story goes." Norah set her pen down slowly, folding her hands in her lap. "I'm not trying to label you, Meghan. I'm trying to understand you." "Then maybe," Meghan said, leaning forward slightly, "you should start by listening instead of assuming." The air went cold. Whatever politeness had remained evaporated completely. What began as a polished, civil exchange had turned into something else. A sparring match dressed in polite smiles. Norah's composure held, but her patience thinned. Meghan leaned back, crossing one leg neatly over the other, her chin lifted in quiet triumph, as if she'd just claimed victory. Neither woman realized they were only halfway through the storm. The tension in the studio settled like fog. Every word now felt weighted, deliberate. The easy smiles were gone. What remained was a fragile balance between restraint and irritation. Two professionals locked in a duel neither had planned to fight. Norah took a slow sip of water, trying to diffuse the static hum between them. Meghan sat poised, unbothered, radiating a calm that bordered on defiance. "Let's talk about the future, then," Norah said gently, adjusting her notes. "You've spoken often about empowerment and using your voice to inspire others. What's next for you? More projects? Another season of your Netflix series, perhaps?" Meghan's lips curved into a small, almost mocking smile. "I find it amusing that people are so invested in what I'll do next. Maybe the world should focus less on my next move, and more on what I've already achieved." Norah nodded slightly, keeping her tone even. "Of course, but you've become a public figure whose choices influence millions. Naturally, there's curiosity about what's to come." "Curiosity," Meghan repeated, the word dripping with disdain. "Or obsession, because it feels like the latter. Every time I breathe, there's an article. Every time I blink, there's a headline. I'm not a spectacle, Norah. I'm a human being." "I completely understand that," Norah replied softly. "But with influence comes scrutiny. That's the nature of public life." Meghan let out a low laugh, shaking her head. "It's easy to say that when you're the one asking the questions. You get to control the narrative. Ask, interpret, edit. Meanwhile, I'm left defending my existence." For the first time, Norah's composure faltered. The sting in Meghan's words landed. "That's not entirely fair," she said quietly. "I'm here to have a conversation, not a confrontation." Meghan's smile returned, thin and deliberate. "Then perhaps you should reconsider the tone of your questions." A heavy silence fell. Even the camera operator hesitated, unsure whether to keep rolling. Norah didn't move. She'd weathered political storms before, but never one wearing designer heels and an unshakable sense of righteousness. "Meghan," she said evenly, "I think it's fair to say your journey has been complicated. You've had moments of triumph and moments of controversy. There's a perception, Meghan interrupted, her tone slicing through the air. "People love that word. They talk about perception as if it's truth, but it's not. It's manipulation, spun by tabloids and lazy reporters." Norah tilted her head slightly. "So every story written about you is false?" "I didn't say that," Meghan replied, her voice cold and precise. "But most are, and the rest are twisted just enough to feed whatever narrative sells. It's pathetic, really." Norah placed her notes down completely now, her patience fraying at the edges. Her tone remained soft, but there was steel beneath it. "You know, Meghan, I've interviewed world leaders, survivors, and activists who've faced unimaginable pressure. But you seem determined to treat every question as an attack." Meghan's smile was slow, Deliberate. Dangerous. Maybe that's because every question is one. Norah blinked, momentarily stunned by the bluntness. "That's not true," she said carefully, "isn't it?" Meghan shot back. "You bring me here, pretend to be interested in my causes, and then circle back to gossip, money, and my family. Forgive me if I don't feel honored." The tone had shifted entirely. Gone was the subtle diplomacy. In its place was raw tension crackling under the studio lights. Norah straightened in her chair, professionalism hardening into resolve. "With respect, Meghan, these aren't gossip topics. These are issues you yourself have spoken about. Publicly. You've made statements that naturally invite clarification." Meghan's voice dropped to a quiet, dangerous calm. "Clarification or interrogation?" she asked. "There's a difference. One seeks truth, the other seeks fault. And you, Norah, seem far more interested in the latter." The air turned frigid. In the control room, no one dared to move, let alone speak. Norah folded her hands in her lap and exhaled slowly through her nose. "What I'm interested in," she said carefully, "is accountability. If you want to tell your story, that comes with fair, reasonable questions." Meghan tilted her head, her expression cool. "Accountability," she echoed. "Such a convenient word, always thrown at women who speak up, never at the institutions that silence them." Norah studied her for a long moment. The silence between them was so heavy it felt like it could crack the walls. When she finally spoke, her tone was measured but edged with steel. "Do you ever worry, Meghan, that your message gets lost in the way you deliver it?" For a second, Meghan seemed caught off guard. Then her irritation returned. "Meaning what?" "Meaning," Norah said slowly, "that sometimes confidence can sound like condescension, and that can make it hard for people to hear what you're really saying." The room froze. Meghan's eyes darkened. Her smile vanished. "Are you suggesting I'm arrogant?" Norah didn't flinch. "I'm suggesting that your tone sometimes overshadows your message." Meghan leaned back, exhaling through her nose. "You know what's funny, Norah? When a man speaks firmly, he's called strong. When a woman does it, she's called difficult. I guess even seasoned journalists fall into that trap." It was a sharp, practiced deflection, elegant and cutting. But this time, Norah didn't let it pass. "I think strength," she said softly, "also means being able to listen." Meghan's expression hardened. "Then maybe you should try it sometime." The words landed like a slap. For a long, unbearable moment, neither woman spoke. The silence crackled, alive with restrained fury. What had begun as an interview had now become open combat. The crew behind the cameras exchanged uneasy glances. One producer half raised his hand to signal a break, but Norah waved him off. "Not yet." She leaned forward slightly, her tone clipped but calm. "Let's take a breath," she said. "We both want this to be a fair conversation. So let me ask you, when you look back at everything, the royal life, the media, the documentaries, do you ever think about how it's affected the public's trust in your story?" Meghan gave a short, incredulous laugh. "Trust? That's a strange word to use, considering how the public has treated me. I don't owe anyone trust, Norah. People twisted my words for years. Why should I care what they believe now?" Norah's eyes narrowed slightly. "So it doesn't matter to you whether people believe your version of events?" "I'm saying," Meghan replied, her voice rising, "people believe whatever they're told. That's how propaganda works. The press paints me as the villain because it sells. And it's lazy journalism." The word lazy hung in the air like smoke. Norah's composure slipped just slightly. Her tone sharpened. "I can assure you, Meghan, I take journalism very seriously. I've dedicated my life to it." "Then maybe," Meghan shot back, "you should dedicate it to something truthful." The remark landed hard. The air in the studio grew dense, electric. Norah blinked slowly, her jaw tight. "That's unfair," she said, her calm beginning to fray. "I've treated you with respect this entire time." "Have you?" Meghan leaned forward, her voice like ice. Because from where I'm sitting, this feels more like an ambush than an interview. Every question you ask drips with judgment." Norah's patience cracked like glass under pressure. "There's no judgment here, Meghan." But the look in both their eyes said otherwise. Norah's voice remained calm, though her eyes had hardened. When someone chooses to speak publicly about their life and experiences, it's reasonable to ask questions. That's how accountability works. Meghan gave a thin, icy smile. "Accountability! There it is again. The media's favorite word. You all love holding others accountable, but never yourselves." That was the breaking point. Norah straightened in her chair, the calm professionalism in her tone giving way to raw frustration. "You know what, Meghan? Enough. I've spent nearly an hour trying to give you space to share your side, but all you've done is deflect and belittle. Every time someone challenges you, it's the same story. Everyone's against you, everyone's unfair, everyone's wrong but you." For the first time, Meghan blinked, visibly taken aback. No sharp retort came. Norah's voice grew firmer, each word cutting through the silence. "You say you want to be understood, but you make it impossible. You shut down questions, insult anyone who asks them, and then wonder why people doubt your sincerity." Meghan's tone dropped, low and cold. "That's not fair." "No," Norah shot back. "What's not fair is sitting here, acting like the world owes you something. You talk about empowerment and truth, but what I see is arrogance. You've built a brand on victimhood while refusing to take responsibility for your own words." The sound in the studio shifted. The faint hum of equipment, a nervous cough from behind the camera. The air felt heavy, charged. Meghan's face hardened. "You have no right to speak to me that way." "I have every right," Norah replied evenly. "When you sit in that chair and dismiss every attempt at honest dialogue. Respect goes both ways, Meghan. The world gave you a platform, opportunities most people could only dream of. And here you are, blaming everyone but yourself." Meghan suddenly stood, the movement sharp enough to tug her microphone cord. "You know what, Norah? This interview is over. I won't be disrespected." Norah didn't move. "You're walking away because you don't like being challenged. That's not strength, Meghan. That's entitlement." The words froze her mid-step. Meghan turned, face flushed with a mix of anger and disbelief. "Entitlement?" she echoed, voice trembling. "Do you have any idea what I've endured? The hate, the racism, the lies? You sit there and judge me like you know my life." "I'm not judging your life," Norah said quietly. "I'm judging your behavior, right here, right now. And yes, it's entitled, because thousands of people suffer every day and don't use their pain as an excuse for cruelty." The silence that followed was deafening. The two women stared at each other, one seething, the other unflinching. Finally, Meghan tore off her microphone and threw it onto the table. "This is unbelievable," she muttered, voice shaking. "You people are all the same, pretending to be fair while trying to humiliate me on camera." Norah remained seated, her composure slowly returning. "No one humiliated you, Meghan," she said quietly. "You did that yourself." Meghan froze. For a split second, something flickered behind her eyes. Hurt, maybe even regret. But it vanished just as quickly. Without another word, she turned and stormed off set, her heels echoing through the silent studio. Norah exhaled deeply, leaning back in her chair. The control room was motionless, unsure whether to cut the feed or let it roll. Finally, she turned to the camera. "To our viewers," she said calmly, "I want to apologize for how this interview unfolded. That was not the conversation we intended. Sometimes, even with the best intentions, things don't go as planned. But real honesty isn't always comfortable." Her gaze held steady for a long moment before she looked away. The lights dimmed, the recording stopped, and silence reclaimed the room. The next day, only fragments of the interview would air, headlines blazing, Meghan Markle walks off, mid-interview as Norah O'Donnell holds her ground. But those who were there would remember the atmosphere more than the words. Two women, two versions of power, colliding in one unforgettable moment. What did you think of that explosive exchange? Did Norah cross the line? Or was Meghan finally confronted with the truth? Let us know in the comments. And if you love dramatic, real-life interviews that spiral out of control, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More shocking moments are on the way.